Anyways, let's move on to a guy who I'm not so high on is fucking Scotty Brooks.
Wow, no love lost there.
No love lost for Scotty Brooks. Scott Brooks signed a 5-year contract for $35 million. They can pay me $35 million over 5 years.
I think Scott
to do this
Brooks
job.
is a better option at head coach than you, though.
Have you seen me in 2K, dude?
2K is a lot.
I do the Scott Brooks offense in 2K.
If we're talking 2K is the generator, then I should just be the trade consultant for
no,
teams.
you shouldn't.
Jesus Christ, no.
But anyway,
the league would turn into a dumpster
Because I
fire.
could do it in 2K, man. It works in 2K.
Now, I can be Scott Brooks, though. I mean, what did he do in the Thunder? Oh, KD.
Only went to the finals.
Is KD open? Yeah, I can go to the finals with
All
two
right,
of the
guys.
5 best players in the
I
NBA.
don't think you could.
Grab the whiteboard. Kevin Durant open, pass him the ball. Russell Westbrook open, pass him the ball.
Is KD open? No. Is Russ open? Yes. Give it to Russ.
Yeah.
Is KD open? No. Is Russ open? KD drive. It's easy offense here, and I with the talent in Washington, I don't think Scott Brooks is going to succeed. But why do you think that? I mean, you seem like you're kind of defending Scott Brooks.
I don't
Make this make sense for us.
Well, my biggest thing when you were like, "Oh, this is a terrible hire,"
It is.
My first thought was, I don't think Scott Brooks was the true problem with the Thunder because yes, the Thunder made it back to the playoffs, but let's be honest, they had Kevin Durant. If Scotty Brooks was still there with the Thunder today,
Yep.
they would have made the playoffs. It's not that hard,
Right.
With the
But
Western
the question
Conference.
is, how much of an impact did Scott Brooks have there? Because they're going to make the playoffs anyway without him. So what was his impact? What is his legacy on this Oklahoma City team? Because when we talk about Tom Thibodeau taking the Bulls in that playoff stretch, and they did it as the underdogs. They did it with no names. They did it with a bench mob. Well,
to
let's
me,
see.
this
Scott
Thunder,
Brooks here.
This Thunder team, the biggest downfall for them was when James Harden left.
Well, yeah,
Because
but James Harden
that-
also
well-
never hit his potential in OKC.
James
That's
Harden.
where he was starting to hit
James
it.
Harden left OKC as
the top.
No. He left as the absolute problem. He was the GOAT. He was the reason why they lost. He absolutely underperformed in the. Do you not remember his performance in the playoffs? He disappeared. He was a non-factor. He absolutely was disastrous in the playoffs.
It as the other
and people
way.
absolutely railed him for it. I'm not saying it was the right move to let him go. I completely disagree. But I'm saying that his impact, while good, was not the reason of the downfall of this team.
No, I mean over a series of time because, they got back to the conference finals that next year later, but then they went to the semifinals a year later. Yeah, they got back to the conference finals and never made it back. But to me, Scott Brooks, what did that team in Oklahoma City try to do? Oh, let's throw a bunch of money at Serge Ibaka? That hasn't panned out.
They also did a ton of
he
moves.
did get Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, but then now it's like, now we've got to bring in Enes Kanter because Serge Ibaka can't hold his snuff anymore.
But
He can't make a shot.
But also, they brought in guys to try to fill out the front court, or the front court that they really lacked because they didn't have a true big man down there, and then also they never had a shooting guard to pair with them, and they still can't find one. They tried to make moves for guys to fill out around them, but it hasn't worked. I mean, they fucking brought in Deion Waiters. I mean, if you look at the difference between the team in 2013, the time where he had Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, to Billy Donovan's team right now. I mean, I think Scott Brooks had 4 more wins, but also I think Kevin Durant was out way more games this season than Billy Donovan. So Billy Donovan probably got more out of the Thunder this year. I mean, Scott Brooks did nothing to this team. I agree that he didn't have the best team around him and that team could have had more potential there, but I did think that OKC's front office did give him as much as he could. I mean, I think they weren't like, stale in trade markets, because that year where they went out and got Cantor, they got Steven Adams, they went out and got Kyle Singler. They tried to make moves to bolster this team, but they didn't really just pan out.
They didn't change the face of the team. That was the problem. The impact is your core is still 2 men, and Ibaka is at half on top of it. So with that known, you have to game plan around that, and I feel like Scott Brooks didn't change the game plan. They went to the playoffs, lost. They went to the playoffs, lost. Went to the playoffs, lost. Different rounds. I mean, first round, conference finals, NBA finals in those first 3 years. But they kept running into the same problems, and he didn't adapt. He didn't change his game plan. He didn't try to change matchups. He lacked all of those critical things and playoff moments that you want to see out of a very veteran head coach. Like, what Steve Kerr did great early in his career was learn when to stop a hot run, when to call the timeouts, when to do switches, when to run plays, and when to just let your guys go with it. That's something that Scott Brooks never seemed to grasp to me. I feel like he was always late to call timeouts to stop runs. He didn't realize when his team lost their momentum that when they needed his guidance, and he didn't apply it. He just let them go and was like, you guys, it's Westbrook and Durant. You guys run the show. And I feel like he didn't have that impact over the team.
Well, and
that
another
a lot of
thing-
other head coaches did.
Another thing you have to think of, and this plays into that, is that was his first head coaching job too.
And that's fine.
Like think
But-
of
okay, hold on, but
wait. Think of other head coaches that are not legends and Hall of Famers. That first job, they were boom, instant success. And I know you're going to bring up Steve Kerr, but to me, Steve Kerr is in that time as one of the greats. Because
we'll talk about Tom Thibodeau then.
Who was he? Like
We just got done talking about Tom Thibodeau.
Well, the thing with
he comes
Thibodeau-
in with young talent, a superstar, same time frame, and guess what? Playoffs.
Who did Thibodeau learn from before he became a head coach? Who was he under?
Yeah, okay.
Doc Rivers.
It's
kind of hard
a good
not
mentor.
to know how to do things.
But where did Scott Brooks come from?
George Karl.
PJ Carlissimo
And
was
George Karl.
his.
But-
and look at where George Karl is now.
George Karl is still a
I'm not
fantastic
saying
coach.
George Karl isn't a fantastic overall, but look at where George Karl is now compared to a Doc Rivers.
Well,
It's
George
the
Karl
coaching
also
trees
got old.
The,
I mean,
the coaching trees are different, and to me, I don't think this is the worst move for the Wizards.
I don't think it's the worst move. I just don't see how
I think it's a bad move.
this move helps them move forward as a franchise. Because what is he gonna do? What can he do? Go ahead, Sean.
Well, no, I was going to let you finish. I was just saying, like, give me the turn next. But I'm just saying, we asked this when we talked about Tibbs. How does he fit with the current roster in Washington? Because he can't do this with Beal and John Wall. I mean, John Wall's a fantastic player, but he can't do that.
Yeah.
And we might run into the same exact problems he ran into OKC, but he might be playing with a worse team because John Wall, I'm not trying to bash him here, but he's worse than Russell Westbrook. I don't think that's a really comparison. And Bradley Beal's nothing compared to Kevin Durant. But I mean, Gortat can be effective, and Morris can be effective.
Kevin Durant's more of like a small forward than a shooting guard.
I know, but they don't have I'm talking I'm talking two best players on the team.
Yeah, and no one's going to debate that Otto Porter is anywhere near Kevin Durant.
No, but he was effective this year.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, looking at this team, they're clearly a worse team, and I don't see how he's really going to change what this team was.
Well,
I don't see.
Let me throw it this side. Since you think it's a bad hire, who would you have brought in? Would you have brought in Jeff Van Gundy to be your head coach? Because right now that's the top guy on everyone's list. Now that Brooks and Thibodeau is off the market.
I like what Hornacek did. I really liked what Jeff Hornacek did.
I feel like he got cut too early.
I think he did too, and I think the Suns GM really screwed him over there. I really like Jeff Hornacek, and I thought he would have done well with the two guards there because I mean he really paired well with what the Suns had in place there, and also you had former ties with Gortat. Maybe Hornacek wasn't throwing his name out there. Jeff Van Gundy's still a great hire. Jeff Van Gundy knows what he's doing in the NBA. I mean I see, and I'm trying to look at guys, and I think that Hornacek would have been a good hire. Jeff Gundy would have been a good hire. Mark Jackson, as much as I give him crap here, and I don't personally think he's a good coach and should get an NBA job, I think he's a better hire than Scott Brooks, mainly because if you look at what he did, he did develop Steph Curry. He didn't have Steph Curry at his peak here. So and he brought in guys like Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. I mean, Steve Kerr didn't draft those guys.
Didn't really develop as well.
No, not at all. I'm not saying that, but I mean, you could see that he did have a sense of who might be able to be good players.
No, that's true.
Where Scott Brooks was gifted Westbrook and he was gifted Durant. I mean, he didn't look out for these guys. And other than that, I mean, he didn't bring in anyone who truly changed the game here. And then
how much did he help develop those games too?
Yeah,
like that's the question.
Exactly.
Is you watch James Harden sit on the bench and be that guy for a couple years, and look, let's be honest, if Scott Brooks didn't see Harden becoming, a star or even a starter caliber, you think that his input wouldn't have been there for that team? He'd be like, well, maybe we should pay this guy money because I see it being worth it. No. He did not stick up for Harden. He let him walk, and guess what? Harden, while turnover prone, is still one hell of a scoring machine.
Oh, I completely agree. Maybe even pay him and then trade him. I mean, maybe that's what you do and try to find value that way. But I mean, you look at Scott Brooks' first year, KD was averaging 30 points a game. He walked into a god among men right away. I mean, John Wall's a fantastic player, and I'm not trying to take that away from him. But I think you could have went with Jeff Van Gundy, who's obviously very, very experienced there in Houston and before with New York. But I just don't see I see better fits there for Washington outside of Scott Brooks.
See, I don't. Out of the coaches that were there now, unless like to me.
Or maybe even you go a Nets route and you hire an assistant because maybe you see potential there because maybe you go with the coaching tree like you mentioned before. Maybe you go with an assistant like that who's worked under a Greg Popovich or you worked under a Doc
out
Rivers.
From under there. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, off the bench from Los Angeles, maybe you go with a Mike Woodson who has prior experience in Atlanta and maybe the time under Doc really helped him. You know, Mike Woodson got off to a slow start in Atlanta, missing 3 straight playoffs, but then he got, the Hawks back into the first round. Then he got to the conference semifinals back-to-back years, and then he lost in the first round and got back to the semifinals in New York. I mean, he's had prior experience before with, like, Joe Johnson and Joe Smith, and maybe he can work something out of a team like the Wizards who have John Wall and have Bradley Beal and have Marcin Gortat and have Markieff Morris, guys who can really, Morris who can stretch the floor, Beal who can be a great three-point shooter, Wall who's obviously a great all-around player, and Gortat who's great just down low. So I do think there was better options out there than fucking Scotty Brooks. I think Scott Brooks is a terrible head coach. I don't think he's going to provide anything to Washington. And expectation-wise, going into this next season, Washington obviously did not impress this season. And if they get around 30 wins, that's going to be a win for Scott Brooks.
Dropping off 10 games or 11 games.
Let's be honest. I know John Wall came out and said something about this. However, there's a real reason why they signed him. They want KD. Let's be honest.
KD bait.
They want KD. That's it may not have been the number one reason why, but
But what other head coach would incentivize KD to come to your town?
To come back home.
See, but also, all right, you look at that. I think KD at least signs one more year. I think he's going to wait
cash,
to get more money. So then you're going to suffer with Scott Brooks, and maybe not 30 wins. That was kind of over dramatic.
I don't see them going very much better because it's like, okay, you're going to get a middle pick.
The East.
They might make the 8th spot in the playoffs just because
35 to 40 wins is their best.
I agree.
There's very little improvement that I see making immediate impact because unless they make some weird roster moves to free up cap room or get crazy lucky with the draft, there's no. Well,
they don't even have a draft pick because they traded away to Phoenix.
Right. There you go.
I mean, I don't see Scott Brooks being able to build a team for at least a year. If you're saying that, if they're going for KD, and what if they don't get KD? They just signed Scott Brooks, who's not even a great head coach, for nothing. I mean, I personally think this is a terrible move for the Washington Wizards and Wizards fans. I'm sorry.
Is it as good as Thibs the T-Wolves?
Not even
close.
Like they're
whoa. Wait, let me finish, guys.
Opposite ends of the spectrum,
I was saying,
kid.
is it as good as that? No, but it's not like the absolute worst in my mind.
Well, you could have hired like me. That would have been worse.
To be fair, you have to give Scott Brooks credit. He took a team from 22 wins to 50 wins in one season.
Because Kevin Durant scored 30 points a game.
I mean, there's no saying that John Wall or maybe an Otto Porter couldn't.
I mean, maybe
what if he brings
John Wall.
out
That's a
both
stretch.
Best and Wall? What if he does? We'll never know until this season actually happens.
I think John Wall's a fantastic player, and I'm not saying that, and that's a great place to build off of. But then if you're saying you're bringing in KD, then how are those two even going to work together? And how is Scott? I mean,
amazingly.
Then I see that's just going to turn back into OKC.
That's their dream is to turn the Wizards back into OKC.
It's going to be Scotty
the
Brooks
upside of upsides.
And instead of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Russell Westbrook, you got John Wall. I mean, I don't see this
John Wall.
Yeah, he can do his own dance. I don't think it's going to work out for them at all. I don't think it's going to pan out, and I just personally think this is a terrible hire, even if you get KD, because I don't think you're going to go anywhere with KD, because I know KD's one of the best players in the NBA, but look where KD's gone with Scott Brooks before. He didn't take him anywhere. I just think that this is a terrible move for the Washington Wizards. Anyways. Anything else on your Scott Brooks fandom or love?
No, I'm not a fan. I just don't think it's as bad of a move as you say it is.
Better options available. They made the one that gives them the best chance to sign KD. I understand it. I don't respect it.
There's 29 other teams that might be able to sign Kevin Durant. That's my other thing, too. I mean, you don't know that you're going to be able to sign him.
29 other teams?
You can move players around.
He's not coming to Chicago. Let's be honest.
He's not. I'm just saying.
But
there are 29 other teams that could make moves to get Kevin Durant if that's the only thing they ever want.
Makes him a viable option now.
I'm just saying.
And by viable, I mean better than like the Bulls or the Kings or the Nova Scotia Warriors, I guess, is a basketball team.